Shawn Lee is a prolific American composer and producer, credited on over 40 albums of assorted genres and shows no signs of slowing. After gaining a footing in the LA music scene, Lee relocated to London, inspired and invigorated by the local music trends. You're tuned in to Roots to Grooves.
Welcome back, everybody, to Roots to Grooves.
Roots to Grooves, baby. Seattle, Washington, what is up? And the world. But we're here in Seattle.
The world. Hello, world.
Hello, Jay Purcell.
Hello, Jesse Quigley.
That's us. That means we're on Roots to Grooves.
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah. And on this episode, we are talking about Shawn Lee, a multi-instrumentalist and producer originally from Wichita, Kansas, United States of America, but he is based in London, where he's been living for most of his life. He says now at this point he considers himself a Londoner.
You can hear him in some of his interviews. You can hear him kind of switch from that kind of southern accent a little bit, or whatever Midwestern.
Yeah,
and
his accent's a bit funky.
Kind of. You can kind of hear him go say a couple things in a UK accent a little bit.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an accent like that, but you can kind of hear him. Go between the two. I thought it was kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he definitely has a bit of an accent going on.
Super cool guy. I guess he's got this cool look going. It's like he's got that beautiful mane of silver hair. It's kind of iconic.
Yeah, long silver hair, and he's like I said, originally from Wichita, Kansas, and I mean, where to start? We can start from his early beginnings, or should we briefly talk about what he's been doing for the last few years?
I mean, we could start because I didn't know who this was until you mentioned it for this podcast.
Yeah.
I guess he was Shawn Lee Mahan. He was born, and assumed his artist name is Shawn Lee.
Right.
Shorter, tighter. Sounds great to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know who this guy was, so I'll tell you the little story. You mentioned it. Started to do my research, so I went to his first album under the name Shawn Lee on Spotify. I was like, cool. Track number 1, 8 Breaks. Sounds like a cool album name.
Oh yeah.
It's like cool. Starting with some drums. Sweet. So I'm just chilling out. Just got some drum. Cool. Long drum intro. I like it.
Yeah.
And then I guess the whole song was drums. Next track I think was more drums.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of all drums. I was like, what is this?
You're like, what's going on here?
It was like interesting, cool.
So I guess before
that was my first impression.
Before we describe anything else, it's fair to say that his first official releases on Spotify from 2002 all the way through 2003, 5 albums. They are all called Ape Breaks. So you have Ape Breaks Volume 1 all the way through Volume 5. And I think they're just all drums, right? Live recorded drums.
Yeah. And I was digging. I was listening to it for a long time.
Which is great. I wonder who sampled that, because they're just raw drum breaks that he recorded live in his studio and just put them out. And
obviously kind of probably with the hopes, meant to be sampled.
Yeah.
Right?
I would guess so. I don't know, or maybe not.
I never found anything about him talking specifically about those.
Yeah, he has released like a few other albums later on in his discography where it's again just the drums. He does it a lot, drums being a real sort of main instrument of his. But he actually started out playing guitar and then drums. So acoustic guitar being his first instrument. Like he said, he started as a kid.
Lebanese American Indian ancestry.
Yeah.
And a little Irish American.
Yeah, his mum had the Lebanese and Native American, I think. Indian, yeah.
And then his dad was Irish.
Yeah. He just said he always was drawn to music as super young as a kid, and he never thought he would do anything else with his life other than play music and go on tour and do that.
And that's what he's done.
And that's what he's done, yeah.
And he made it. Grand scheme of things, super cool artist, super cool, dynamic. He makes music anywhere from groovy rock to psychedelic rock, to orchestral, or symphonic rock even, kind of blending some of this stuff. And so the main thing is that I want to say is he has a bunch of different projects. It's not just under the name Shawn Lee, and he's got his albums that he's releasing. He's working with other artists, collaborating with other artists, and he has a bunch of different project names, and he's extremely prolific and obviously just loves music.
Incredibly prolific. So I looked this up. Over the last 20 years, under his own name and with collaborations with other people, he's released 41 albums.
Boom.
And 3 film soundtracks.
Yeah.
And not only that, he also had a career as a producer and a session musician. So he actually wrote songs for a lot of pop artists. He actually played guitar and bass on the track Spice World by Spice Girls.
Really? When you said Spice World, I didn't recognize that, but I was what came to mind was Spice Girls.
So he played a bunch of instruments on Spice Girls albums.
That's cool.
There was this not famous in America, but famous in England, a girl pop group called Girls Aloud, which he also produced a lot of stuff for. There's this guy Ronan Keating, who was the singer from this Irish boy band called Boyzone. He played live drums for at some of his shows. This guy has had a career. And he's even played with Jeff Buckley, like back in the day as well in LA.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So he's working with some cool artists. I think at some point he worked with Paul McCartney. I don't know if on music, but we can talk about it later. But he was doing
it's for a film,
film about
thing. Yeah.
Which is a term that I learned. Library music. Are you familiar with that?
I am. Yeah.
I'd never heard about that until I heard him say that in an interview.
Yeah.
And it was a cool thing to learn about. You want to give us a little rundown,
Okay, well, so like the history of library music is back in the day, there were all these composers that would create the most funky stuff you've ever heard, and it was just purely created for soundtracks for film and TV.
Yeah.
And there was this like famous library called KPM that produced all of these tracks. And, you know, so you're thinking back in the days of like the Mission Impossible, like TV shows and that, when they had all the funky things, all those Man from U.N.C.L.E. Yeah. Like all the soundtracks and the music that was used in those shows was library music. They just like created bunch of like albums that could be used for that stuff. And so yeah, skipping ahead a bit, but he recently, in the last couple of years, he always was like interested by that music and the history of it and who created it. And he always thought that, oh, you know, a movie should be made about the people that created that music. And he said it was rolling around in his head for years. And you know, he eventually came to the realization, he was like, well, I don't think anyone else is going to make this movie, so I'm probably going to have to make it. And
and because he's known about this and he's been involved with library music and, you know, other productions and everything, of course. But he's how old?
He's currently 57, I think,
so
58.
You know, he's been thinking about this for a long time, and he's been involved with it for a long time. And certainly I've never heard about library music, and so he kind of took that on himself, and he was like, I don't see people making what I want to watch and what I think people should learn about this. And so he's like, I'll do it myself. I'll take that on, put it on my shoulders, and I'll build this.
So that is a great movie that he produced and did the interviews for, together with a couple of other filmmakers. It's on Amazon, I see. It's called The Library Music Film. I haven't seen it yet. I really want to go check it out.
I do too. I wish I had more time. I wasn't able to find where I could watch it or something in the amount of time that we gave ourselves to research. But I would recommend watching it, and I'm certainly going to watch it this week.
Yeah, me too. It's I'll read the description for it. Get prepared for some kind of trip through the music industry's parallel universe. You'll get a lot of laughter along the way when Shawn Lee travels back to the golden era of library music and introduces the legends, labels, and publishers of the genre.
Damn.
There you go.
Yeah, man. Let's watch it right now. The rest of the podcast, we're going to turn down the lights.
I'm going to click. There's a watch party button on Amazon. You do have to pay for it though. It's streaming $4.99, but I think it's worth it. And the proceeds will go directly to the filmmakers and to Shawn Lee for putting this together.
So definitely somebody who deserves to, reap some benefits of, monetary value, because he's bringing a lot of value to the music industry and to communities all over the world interested in music.
Yeah, and in that he managed to interview some people that passed away like shortly after they interviewed them as well. So, he snuck in there just at the right time to make sure that those stories from those people were captured.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really cool about this guy. He's down for the history of music. He's interested in what it is and why it is, who listens to it, and where this music's being played. And kind of going back to what library music is, because I'm still discovering what this is based on this podcast and the research for this podcast. I guess library music is kind of defined as music that's not meant to be marketed as an artist's music. Like, hey, check out my new song. It's kind of meant to be like, here's a library of music that you can use for TV shows or for advertisements or any marketing. And obviously, there's a ton of good music, and a lot of people would never think about it because you're listening to an advertisement, or it's the background music of a documentary, for example.
And it's still created to this day, but that era of like, I don't know when it was created, like 60s and 70s. Like, I even found, I was in a record shop, I want to say 1 million years ago, not that long. Back in my days when I lived
You're just a young chap, bro.
Yeah, back in my days when I lived in the UK, though, I found this LP vinyl called Soho Lounge Heat. And it's all, and that's a separate like music film library that was like based in Soho in London. What? And it's all like funky shit. Yeah.
Give me what's Soho?
Soho, just a place in London, like a little.
Like South downtown Seattle is Sodo?
Yeah, it's like, Soho. There's a Soho in New York as well. I don't know what it stands for, but
okay.
There's a few blocks within the city.
It's a district, an area. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm just trying to learn.
In London, Soho was like the place, and I think it still is, where a lot of like movie film production houses are based. A lot of like edit suites, post-production for movies, offices, movie theaters.
And I think that was one of the things he was kind of interested in, what was going on in that area in the UK.
Yeah.
And so this kid from Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
Why would he end up in the UK of all places? So we can go back a little bit.
Yeah, let's rewind to the beginning.
And we're back. 1963, he's born in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
He's a kid interested in music.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you have a little bit more background, but he's interested in stuff like Glenn Campbell.
Yeah.
And that came to mind because I know a song by Glenn Campbell, I think, is Wichita Lineman.
Okay, yeah.
If you recognize that. And I don't know if he's from Wichita.
He is, yeah.
Okay, so, there you go.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, so, he was a kid growing up there in Wichita, and he listened to the radio a lot. He started buying records. He got himself a guitar, then he got himself a drum kit, then he got himself a tape recorder. So, like, from real early, right out of the gate, he was listening to the music that was around him and trying to create. And, he said that, music is... He said his childhood was very... it was like a magical world for him, I guess, he said. And he did release an album. I want to get the name for it. I think it's called Rides Again, which is, he says, is his most personal album. He said he had the idea for the name of the album in the late 90s because it sounded snappy and looks good when it's written down. Mm-hmm. But he said it's a reflective album about him reminiscing about his childhood in Kansas.
Yeah, the first track on there is called Wichita.
Yeah.
This came out in 2019.
Yeah.
It's got a nice sharp image of him on the album cover.
Yeah.
Just kind of straight,
Yeah.
upper body and face head shot.
Yeah.
Of him wearing like a gray cowboy hat and a kind of a gray suit or jacket.
Yeah.
And he's got his silver hair.
Yeah.
So it looks super sharp. And like you said, it's kind of revisiting that past where he came from, paying homage to where he came from and reflecting on that.
Yeah, musically and lyrically. And like the country music thing, he said he grew up, around country music a lot. And he said he really liked the guitar playing, like the pedal steel and the singing of that old country music. Like you said, Glenn Campbell, Tony J. White, who you mentioned as well, who's someone he was able to play with in the early 90s as well. So he started out there, and at a certain point he realized that, if he wanted to make a career out of music, he needed to move to a major city.
Like New York, LA.
Yeah, he thought about
London.
Yeah, he thought about Nashville.
Nashville.
But he was like, that probably didn't fit entirely, like the type of music he was doing.
Because he grew up with country.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to.
No. Yeah.
He didn't want to do country in Nashville. Especially maybe at that time was a little more focused on country.
I think so. Yeah. I think now it's a different vibe. I think a lot of people that aren't doing country are based in Nashville now, like Jack White. White Stripes is based down there. And that.
There's definitely more than country going on there.
Yeah, but and that would have been like in the 80s. So a lot more country. So he said it was either really New York or LA, and he picked LA because of the weather, basically. Like
the palm trees, baby.
Yeah, and he was done with those harsh winters in Kansas, and so he moved there at the age of 24 in 1988. And he kind of said it was sort of hard to leave that small town, because if you come from a small town and think about moving somewhere bigger, it's a big adjustment, moving away from your family, your friends, everything
A lot of change all at once.
A lot of change. And then also, he said, there'll be people around him that will be like, oh, well, small kid trying to move it to the big city to make it. Like,
you're just a country kid. What are you going to do out there, man? You're not that good.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, he heard all of that sort of stuff, but he managed to get out, and at the age of 24, he went to LA.
That's super admirable. I think that's super cool because, in the face of that adversity, people, people older than you telling you, like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Like, not believing in him necessarily.
Yeah.
And having that willpower to be like, no, that frame of mind to do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it. And here I am.
Exactly.
Like, I don't care what you think. So for that reason, as I was learning about who this guy was, because like I said, I didn't know who he was. you know, he gained my respect just right there as a young person, you know.
Yeah.
That's a big change. That's cool.
And this is a whole mindset thing, actually, that I completely forgot to talk about in our last episode on polyphia.
Polyphia. Either way.
Yeah. Well, let's just backtrack for a second and talk a little bit about that, because in that episode, I forgot to say that they had a real mindset about just believing that whatever it is that you want to do, you can do, as long as you put in the work and are focused and dedicated to it. And totally. I don't know why I forgot to talk about it, because that's a big thing about them, I think. So yeah, rewind your episodes. Go check out what we said about them. But yeah, I mean, for Shawn Lee, it's the same thing. Like he's mentioned it more than once, and what I've said is like, is the art of finishing something. You know, so whatever idea you have, you know, just develop skills, work on it, and finish it. You know, he said like, there's so many people that have great ideas but don't have the follow through. But as long as you have like a work ethic and are dedicated to finishing something, then you can get somewhere. And that is I mean, this guy's released 41 albums in 20 years, and probably more that we don't know about that is not released. So totally. That mindset, and I think that's probably what helped him. He must have, I hadn't heard him talk about that, but he must have it must have been ingrained within him in order to like move from his small town to LA to pursue you know, a career in music kind of thing.
Yeah. So we started, you know, and that's one of the cool things about music and musicians and making these big changes and doing stuff that you don't think you can do or other people say you can't do. You know, you're developing a mindset and you're developing a philosophy in your head, you know, about, you know, who you are and what you are, and, you know, creating your mind frame and having agency, you know, like I am me, and I'm in control. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what other people say.
Well, I'm going to keep messing up the name.
Polyphia?
Yeah, I think one of those guys said, I can. That was the message that they had through their music. I can.
Nice.
So, yeah, to what you're saying, I think just have that confidence and don't listen to the naysayers. Everyone's always going to tell you something negative about not able to do it, not able to make it, and whatever kind of thing and stuff like that. And you just kind of have to have confidence and forge through and what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to bring to the table on this podcast. I mean, most of the people we talk about, especially like the people we're trying to pick for these episodes, they all started as just normal nobody people who had a dream, who had an idea, and they went for it. Yeah. And they said, I don't care what other people say or think. Yeah. I'm going to build what I want to build.
Yeah. And you don't have to be famous to get there either, because it's like you hadn't heard of Shawn Lee and I hadn't heard of Polyphia.
Right.
So, you know, it's like there's worlds, there's groups, there's people that are out there that are doing it and following their passions and making a living out of their passions. But, you know, they're not like Hollywood celebrities.
They're not special.
Not everyone knows about them. Certain people know about them that are into what they're doing. But yeah, so I mean, that's a big part, I think, you know, especially if Shawn Lee's career doing that, you know. So yeah, like I say, moved there in 88.
So do you know the first thing he worked on when he moved out to LA? What was his first move?
I don't know specifically, but he said eventually he found himself playing with like other bands and stuff like that. So I think it took him a little while to meet people,
establish himself in the new city,
and get playing with people and stuff like that. But when he was out there, he made some connections with Jeff Buckley. I'm not sure in what capacity he collaborated with him. I think he might have been a session musician or something, or playing live with him or something.
Jeff Buckley, esteemed guitarist.
Yeah, very famous guy. I think he committed suicide a long time ago.
I didn't know that. He was based out of LA though?
Yeah. Very influential guy.
Totally.
I think his dad was very famous artist as well. And so Shawn was out there doing that. He also did some kind of collaborations with the Dust Brothers, who were like a sampling duo who contributed a lot of work to Beastie Boys' early releases and Beck's early releases as well. And
Beck, as in Beck, not Jeff Beck.
No, Beck.
Beck. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and so he was doing that. He was in some bands. He eventually was in some band that managed to appear on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Mm-hmm. And he said for his people back in his small hometown in Wichita, that was like a breakthrough moment, because they were like, "Oh, okay, well, you're on the Tonight Show. You've clearly gone there and made it in a way."
Yeah, even if there's a bunch of naysayers.
Yeah,
you know, at some point, that's a huge show.
Yeah. To be on, and he talked about his experience about being there as well. He said even just being there and being behind the scenes of the show is like he instantly felt like he kind of made it in some way as well. Mm-hmm. Because of the level of professionalism of everyone backstage at the show. He also said he could realize why some people could become arseholes, because people are hanging around like, "What do you need? What can I get for you?" and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can get used to that, that
lifestyle. Yeah,
like this is nice.
Yeah,
but coming from a small town, and he would run into these other people. What do they have to say about it?
Yeah.
You at that point of that kind of critical acclaim is being on a show that's as widespread and famous and important as that. That's the same show. Is that the same show like the Beatles went on, and they also made the same name for themselves, kind of?
I'm not
in American.
Sure.
Was it Johnny Carson?
How far did Johnny Carson go back? Was it in the 60s? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of the. Maybe I'm getting the name mixed up. Another late show guy or whatever. Mm-hmm. But either way, the people in the small town got to give him a little bit of a little golf clap at least. Like, okay, that's certainly something.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, wherever you came from, if you're, I would be happy to make it on a show like that, just playing in a band, for another artist, singer or something like that. So, in some ways he did make it at that point, and he was still, in his 20s, still working his way. So I think during this time, he was playing live in bands. I think he went on tour. He played Lollapalooza, another landmark event for any musician,
for sure.
Or artist. I would
playing
say
any festival, I would love. That's still something I haven't checked. I've checked a few things off my bucket list.
Yeah. You've done quite a few.
But I haven't played a music festival in front of a large crowd.
Right.
I managed to play the Showbox in the market in front of a large crowd, which is probably the largest crowd ever. And I was like, but I was on crutches then. That's a whole nother story.
I remember that. I remember that
injury and shit.
But you were playing with Seattle's own Mr. DC?
Mr. DC, yeah.
And that wasn't that long ago. It was only a couple of years, maybe?
Yeah, a couple of years ago. It was supporting Soul. Big hip hop artist here in Seattle.
Right.
We were a support slot for that night, and
which is pretty epic.
Crazy. I played the drums with one leg, and with my hi hat closed off. And Shayhan helped me up on the stage because I only had one leg operationally.
Still, the show must go on, Jay.
The show must go on, and it was a good show. I loved it, and the bucket list of like you say, playing something like Lollapalooza. A big music festival like that. Mm-hmm. I still want to do that. I'm gonna do that one day.
That's on my list too. Yeah. Hopefully we'll be on that same ticket.
There you go. Yeah,
I'm down. Let's jam, bro.
Yeah.
So he's doing stuff,
Yeah.
I think he got a publishing deal with EMI.
Yeah.
That's while he was touring with bands playing Lollapalooza.
Yeah, he almost signed to I think it was A&M Records a couple of times.
And I think that was kind of his creme de la creme.
Yeah, he would have loved to have been signed to them. Didn't happen for various reasons. I don't know the reasons, but a couple of deals. Some
specifics of payments or not having enough creative oversight or whatever.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So, so then. I guess his move to London, he was like, he said his girlfriend was the singer at the time. I didn't get her name. Did you get her name at all in the research you did?
No, I only heard him talk about his girlfriend, but I didn't get a name either.
Yeah, so he was producing music for her, and she went on a trip to London, and he said she was like always great about making connections with people. So
that's right.
She went around and networked and found a bunch of people, and one of the people she ended up talking to was this guy, Giles Peterson, who's a very big, influential DJ in the UK, label owner as well. Big influence on me as well. I mean, I don't think Signl would have really been here if I hadn't have been inspired by
that much.
Giles
Really?
Peterson. Yeah,
I didn't recognize the name until I came across this research.
Yeah, and so she gave her demo to Giles, and they hung out all night, played records, and she also gave him Shawn Lee's demo. And after she arrived back in LA, Giles had left a voicemail on their phone saying that, it's great to meet you, I want to sign you, and I want to sign Shawn as well.
That's a cool phone voicemail to get.
Yeah, and then so they basically, Shawn and his girlfriend decided to sublet their apartment, which they had in Hollywood, and go to London and record her album and record his album. And Giles's label, Talking Loud, paid for the whole trip, put them up in a house, gave him studio access, gave him complete creative control. He said I think he recorded his album first, and then as soon as he'd finished, he went straight to work on recording her album.
So
back to back, yeah.
At this point, was he set on living there, or was it a temporary move to get this work done?
It was a temporary move to make this work done, yeah. And then he just, I think kind of probably in the back of his mind, he said he was kind of done with LA anyway. Been there for 7 years.
Mm-hmm. And like I was saying a second ago, I think he was digging what was going on with the music scene in London.
Yeah, he said
the UK. Again, not a geographic thing here, but I'm always trying to learn about the.
Yeah, no, he said he felt what was going on in London was more fitting with where he was going musically and what he was into versus being in LA, which is another gravitational thing. So I think it was kind of it seemed like his move initially was sort of by happenstance and luck, but it was sort of driven by his motivation to want to be there anyway, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just things happened.
Kind of a beautiful coalescence.
Yeah.
Of events that led to puzzle pieces coming together.
Yeah. For
his story.
So let's play a track.
Give me another track. It's been we need to play another track. So he has a bunch of projects.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say another one. Shawn Lee's Ping Pong Orchestra.
Oh yeah. Oh, should we reel off some of his other projects?
Oh yeah. Give me
So he formed Shawn Lee's Ping Pong Orchestra. I don't know if there's anyone else other than him, but it's a different bunch of music, and there's 10 albums he's released underneath that.
Right.
And he also formed the Electric Peanut Butter Company, along with Adrian Casada. He also releases music under AM and Shawn Lee. AM being another collaborator.
That was one of my favorite projects that I've come across.
It was really good. Yeah.
Involved with
there's some great
Shawn Lee
in there.
Yeah.
He's also done stuff with Clutchy Hopkins. Clutchy Hopkins is an anonymous producer. No one knows who he is. People think that he might be Madlib or DJ Shadow, or he might even be Shawn Lee himself. No one knows.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't. Yeah. Interesting.
He's great. Just analog funk stuff. Clutchy Hopkins, and
I love seeing some of these names of. We haven't done too many episodes of this yet, but already DJ Shadow's come up in a bunch of our episodes.
At least 4 or 5. Yeah.
In my research, somewhere who is obviously in this kind of genre of library music is Adrian Young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in one of my interviews, he came up, and I think they're at least working in the same genre, or maybe I don't know if they've worked on the project together. I didn't get any specifics, but his name popped up.
Yeah, they haven't directly done anything that I've heard that's been released, but I'm sure they know each other. They're in the same realm,
right?
Musically.
So, and just cool synchronicities. I love.
Yeah,
seeing these cool people come together in ways you never imagine.
Another pseudonym or another group, he's releasing music under Young Gun Silver Fox with Andy Platts.
He's pretty good in general at coming up with band names.
I know, it's crazy, yeah. And Soul Surfers, who I think are a Russian band that he collaborated with, and there's a whole crazy backstory to how they collaborated and got doing stuff as well.
We got time for story time? I didn't come across that, but I'll be down for a story.
I'll tell it, but first, for a musical interlude.
Oh, that's what we're doing. Yeah, you're right. Get back on track.
Backtrack a little bit, and because Shawn Lee did make a debut album in 1996 on Giles Peterson's record label called Talking Loud, but it never got officially released. Its only release was as a promo in France. I don't know why or how, but that was the only thing. I don't know what happened after they funded making this album, why it didn't get released, because it sounds really good. And there's some recognizable tracks on there. I feel like he might have like re-released separately at a different time.
Where were you able to find this? You can listen to it?
Yes. It's not on Spotify, but he has a Bandcamp, Shawn Lee's Bandcamp. You can go there and you can check out his first album there called Discomfort. You can pay for it or you can just stream it, whichever you prefer. I'm going to play this track, Crying Blue, Till My Eyes Are Red.
Till my eyes are red.
1996, ladies and gents.
I never heard that, but it's cool. It's funky. It's groovy.
Still sounds fresh today, and doesn't sound too dissimilar to the rest of his releases throughout his discography. Really, he hasn't. It doesn't sound like it's some young guy trying to figure out things. It's like it sounds legit, like a
He's good at creating those vibes.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think based on the stuff that I saw in interviews and stuff, you know, he's just kind of going off the energy in the room. He's like kind of a vibey guy. He's a super chill guy.
Yeah.
He's just like, what do I have to work with? You know, I can make it work. He's using. I mean, let's talk about his studio for a second. For example, I saw some videos and he's in his studio in London. Yeah, which he's since moved. I think he found a new studio, but the first one I saw, it looks like he's in like a tiny little closet, maybe the size of this room here.
Yeah, I think he had an initial studio in London, then a new one that now spans 2 levels. He said he calls it Trans Yank Studios,
which sounds like he's for years he's had the acclaim or ability to expand into a larger studio, I would guess.
Yeah, well, I think through his publishing deal that he got early on before he moved to London, he was able to compose a lot of tracks for film and TV.
I want to talk about that for 1 second too. And we're kind of like blending genres here, but to give everybody listening an idea of how prolific this guy and everything that he's been in, he's had his music featured in stuff like Ocean's 13, The Breakup, Confessions of a Shopaholic, TV shows like CSI Miami, Lost, Desperate Housewives, Nip Tuck, Ugly Betty, Eastbound and Down. The list goes on and on.
Malcolm in the Middle.
Really, I didn't even see that one. That's awesome. And then I was going to jump to just other artists he's worked with, like Lana Del Rey, Amy Winehouse, Alicia Keys, Princess Superstar, don't know that one, Natasha Atlas, Money Mark, Bebe, Georgia Ann Muldrow. So some big names.
Even the Spice Girls.
And the Spice Girls making an appearance again.
And
I remember watching that movie.
Kylie Minogue as well. He's done some stuff with Kylie Minogue.
Don't recognize it, but I love it.
Yeah. A lot of other like British pop stars.
I was excited to see Lost come up because I don't remember.
Yeah.
I would never guess. I would never have known it was Shawn Lee, but I watched Lost.
Yeah.
So I certainly heard his music 10 years ago without knowing who it was, and that's kind of a cool connection to make.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to be as good as we can, guys, on this episode of trying to explain the story of Shawn Lee, but he's been everywhere.
It's
like, and all kinds of different things.
Everyone listening is probably like, "What are you guys talking about?" Like, pick a category.
Exactly. Stick it in a lane.
But this guy's not sticking in a lane, and I like that about him. He's on TV. He's on movies. He's creating, indie albums. Kind of orchestral albums. Yeah. And this guy's all over the place, although he's hitting the mark every time, and it's good and it's consistent. Yeah. He's prolific, he's artistic, he's vibey, he's cool, he's fun, he's chill.
He's all of those things. And also, like, to come back to what we were talking about earlier, is like his mentality of like not listening to the naysayers, having a work ethic, having an idea and seeing it through to completion and to finishing it. And and that's why he's been so prolific. I think is like, I mean, it's one thing to like even to be able to come up with the ideas in the first place, but in order to like just finish the projects is a whole nother, like, these are different.
It's a different ball game, baby. Yeah.
And like I said, we mentioned briefly about this group called Soul Surfers, and I think so. Kind of what happened to that is he went to Russia somehow, and I think they're a Russian group, Soul Surfers, and they backed him up at a live show. They like learned all of his songs, all the songs that he was going to play, and they were his live band. And then the drummer Igor said, "Oh, after the show, do you want to come back to the studio and make a song, make a track?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." And so they go back. He said it was like really hot summer day in Russia, like really hot. And they go to the studio, and he was like, this whole time this all was going on, he said these people were like miking him up and like filming him and stuff like that, and he didn't really get
studio.
Yeah, he didn't really get what was going on, but like it turns out that Levi's was like the Gene Company was making a documentary about him, and he didn't realize
In Russia.
in Russia, and
he didn't know that Levi's was making a documentary about Shawn Lee.
not at first. He said it unfolded during the day that he realized that was what was happening, and so they were in the studio filming him, like making this track with these guys, and and he said, like, you know, he said they got to the studio at like 10 p.m. and he was like, he realized this was going to be an all-nighter type situation. So they made the track, they're filming the whole time. He goes back to the UK, he adds some vocals, he finishes it off, he sends it back to them, the Soul Surfers, and they're like, yeah, this is really cool, like maybe we should do an EP. And he was like, okay, cool, okay, we'll do an EP. And he was like, maybe that's like 3 or 4 more songs. Like, okay. So they do the 3 or 4 songs, they finish that off. And then like Igor again like messages him up, and he was like, maybe we should do an album.
He's liking the Shawn Lee energy.
And he was like, shit, because I thought I was already done with the EP and that.
I've been in Russia for so long.
Yeah, because he's like thinking about how he has to juggle all his projects and stuff like that. And he was like, well, yeah, I want to do that. And so they do it and they finish it. It's my bad right now that I can't pinpoint the name of the album they did, but I think it's if you look for Soul Surfers and Shawn Lee, you'll find it. And so they did, the Levi's movie got finished as well, and it's like a 35-minute film. I think it's called Let the Soul Be. You can find it on YouTube, and he said he's really proud of it because the documentary came out like a really sort of like foreign film art looking piece. He said it was like a fly on the wall type thing. He said it was like really suspenseful and nothing happened, but it just seemed really like cool and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we got to watch that as well, and then we have to watch his library music film as well.
We're gonna have a whole movie day here at Roots to Grooves off the air.
Well, at the new Signl Studios, we can have a movie night, and we'll spin those movies. And
February 1st is moving day. Signl Studio, new studio location.
It's in the history now of
upgrading,
because this episode is now in March or April or something.
When you all lovely people are listening to this,
we will be in new space already, cranking out new episodes.
Moving up. So, yeah. Love it. It's a great space. It's going to be super cool. We'll show you guys some pictures as soon as we can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm pumped to see it. I haven't been inside. Only Jay knows. Guys, only Jay knows.
We'll be there. But
it's going to be cool. So I don't know. I guess I want to talk about a second for AM.
Yeah.
So AM is an artist out of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
AM from LA.
Yeah.
Letters.
What?
I'm just riffing off. AM lives in LA. Just letters.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just being dumb, Jay. You know. Me.
I see where you're going with that. I wasn't sure.
I'm not going anywhere. That was the end. That's why it was an awkward pause.
Okay.
There was no punchline.
Okay. I think actually that's probably how I might have actually first discovered Shawn Lee. It was through AM and Shawn Lee, because they did come to Seattle and they did a KEXP live in studio performance.
Yeah, and that's what I found, and that was super cool. So he was right, practically up the road from here. Yeah, stone's throw away.
Stone's throw.
And it was cool. So Shawn Lee's playing. AM is like an indie artist out of LA.
Yeah,
and so they connected cross continents.
Yeah,
they never met.
Yeah.
And they so kind of bring this all back to library music. And I think they were both into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think Shawn Lee was talking about some like Italian kind of music. He was into this.
Yeah.
And Italian style library music.
Yeah.
And he came across AM on some internet forums or comments or whatever.
Yeah.
As far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But they got together through the internet and started just kind of talking like, hey, cool stuff you got there. Talking about different composers, different artists, different, styles about library music, about this and that, music in general. And they just kind of kept talking, and to the point where they were like, hey, we should make some music together. Like, this seems legit. You seem legit. You seem legit, vice versa. Sorry for the people on non-video who can't see where I'm referring to. This doesn't make any sense to you.
Hand signals.
So, but they're hooking up together through the internet, fiber optics underneath the ocean or whatever it is. through the satellites. I don't know how that stuff works, man.
I think it is the ocean. Yeah.
I think it's
cables in the ocean.
Cables underneath on the floor of the ocean. That's cool.
Yeah, that's crazy. We don't think about that very often, actually.
That's what it's. You can look up a map on Google, and it's like you can see the cables.
That's insane.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
You'd think there'd be like a tall telephone pole sticking out of the ocean and just like normal, like a street cables going.
Or modern technology. Now we have satellites, but back in the day they just put freaking cables, direct line.
So these cool artists are communicating underneath the ocean in different continents, talking about library music. This is what's going on, guys. And this was in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, or actually, no, they probably hooked up after, it was a little later than that. But
2000s,
yeah. Anyway. AM and Shawn Lee are hooking up on the internet about some cool stuff, and they decide to make some music together. Yeah. They've since come out with a bunch of albums, like 2 or 3, 4.
Yeah, which is another interesting thing to think about with Shawn Lee's collaborations. Is like, most of the times you think certain artists will collaborate with someone for maybe just one album on something, but he's not been doing that. He's been like. Yeah, they have at least 3 albums with AM and Shawn Lee.
Yeah, it wasn't a one and done thing. They kept this and they built this relationship, and I think that's a cool, beautiful thing.
Same with Young Gun Silver Fox as well.
Right,
with his collaboration with Andy Platts as well.
Yeah,
it's a separate thing. And again, they have 2 or 3 albums out.
I think that's it's a cool testament to what this guy Shawn Lee is about. And he's about building cool things and real connections and real networking, not just. How can I better my career by working with this other artist or doing this project? Yeah. Like he's just actually legit wants to connect with people. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. So that's cool. Yeah. So they were talking about this. They made some albums and they created full blown albums and they ended up touring and stuff, but they never met while they were making the albums.
Yeah. They only met when they were going to tour it, I think.
In person. They created an album cross-continentally. Yeah. What do you call it? Intercontinental,
transatlantic.
I don't know. Transatlantic, intercontinental words.
Continental breakfast.
Yes.
Reminds me of
I'm incontinent.
Key and Peele. You ever see that?
Yeah, exactly. I love it. That's one of the best clips. Check that out on YouTube, everybody.
Did someone say continental?
That was a great skit.
Yeah.
That was a great skit.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a digression.
Peele's he's turning into a cool director.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen any of those movies. It's terrible.
I saw his first one, which was I think
Get Out.
Get Out.
I'm still supposed to see Get Out. I just when things are come around and everyone's talking about it. I'm like, I don't know. And now everyone's talked about it to the point where they might have given away the plot to me, and I just need to just go watch it myself.
Yeah,
without knowing.
Totally.
Did you see it?
I think I saw the first one, but what's the second one? I think he came out with another one.
I don't know what the second one's called.
I didn't see it yet, but it's on my list. Yeah. I'm not a horror guy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like horror, but I know he throws other things like comedy and stuff, and it makes it a well-rounded good movie. Yeah. But anyway, this is not a movie podcast. I'm sorry for all you guys who are like, why am I listening to this? So AM and Shawn Lee create some cool albums.
Let's play a little bit of it so I can go to the restroom.
That sounds good. Can we get a little AM and Shawn Lee ditty bopper?
I know. I'm having a Jesse moment right now.
I have those a lot.
Where you must do, because you're being Jesse, you would have Jesse moment. Where I know there was some really good tracks off this album, but I don't know what the names of them are. So
that's totally a Jesse moment. I would if we had the control that I would like, it would be cool to play one of their live from KEXP things. We don't have that prepared.
We can look it up on YouTube and play it live off of YouTube. AM and Shawn Lee.
If that's possible, let's do that, because that'd be cool. Because I watched that whole performance and I ended up stopped doing my notes and everything, and I just watched it because these guys are jamming, and I didn't know who AM was either. Yeah. And he's just got some cool vocals, cool lyrics, and they really vibe and gem together, and it's fun to watch them. Yeah. And
9 years ago they recorded this, but
already 9 years ago.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool because somewhere in that performance they switch instruments too.
Yeah,
And like Shawn Lee's like this producer guy. He's a drummer. You know, I think in this thing he was mostly playing bass, and then he switched to guitar. Yeah. But it's just a testament to like the musicality of this gentleman. Yeah. It's super cool.
Let's spin it. We might also probably get an ad for KEXP in here, which is okay. They're a good station. They ain't paying for this placement though. I have to say that.
Yeah. Don't check them out, but go check out signalradio.com.
Yeah. This track I'm going to play here is from their live performance in October of 2011.
Cool. KEXP is dope. Check it out also.
Yeah, and this track is called Somebody Like You.
Dope.
someone to make it through. In the end we all leave somebody, so love someone until you do. Don't you know that I need somebody like you? Don't you know that I need somebody that's true?
90.3 KEXP worldwide at KEXP.org. AM and Shawn Lee live here on the morning show. It is impossible not to move around a little.
Are we on? Are we live?
We are. This isn't KXP.
Signl Radio, Seattle, Washington.
Yes.
Signalradio.com.
Rooster Grooves. Rooster Grooves.
But super cool live performance by A&M and Shawn Lee on KEXP right up the road from where we are here at Signl Radio Studios in Seattle, Washington.
Shout out Kevin Suggs, the audio engineer over there. I worked with him when we did our session over there.
Nice.
He's a good guy. Yeah.
Good sound too. I mean, that sounded cool. Hopefully everyone can get the vibe. Like that was literally live. Shawn Lee and AM and other musicians in the same room playing.
Yeah.
That's what live means, everybody.
Live.
Yeah. But it's just a cool thing to see. I came across that and I was pumped to see that.
Yeah.
Being these people from, working in different continents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and it was funny because also back in Shawn Lee's discography, he did some production work and musicianship work on an album by Nigo. He's a streetwear designer from Japan, and he came out with an album called Ape Sounds, not related to Ape Breaks.
I was gonna say that. I was like, what?
Yeah, but that was an album. I actually did a show on that. It's on YouTube. It keeps coming up and down because of the copyright issues, but I do have a show back there where I celebrated that album, and I didn't know that he was involved with it at all until recently when I did that show, actually. And I found out that Shawn Lee was all over it as a producer and musician, which is a great album as well. It's very sort of breakbeaty and atmospheric, hip-hoppy. Money Mark is on there as well, I think, on a few tracks. So,
nice.
But yeah, that's a digression. Yeah, but AM and Shawn Lee was the first time I discovered Shawn Lee for real, and then was able to sort of just look him up from there and figure out that I'd actually heard some of his songs played. Like, I feel like, to be honest with you, because Giles Peterson did sign him for his first debut album that didn't come out. Mm-hmm. But I want to say that I think I've actually heard Giles play some of his tracks when I used to listen to Giles' radio show in the UK back in like the late 90s.
Didn't even know it.
So I didn't even know it. And, that's how these things go, right? You hear these tunes and you're like, you forget about them and then you rediscover them and you're like, yeah.
That's the beauty of music. It could be sitting around for years, ages.
Yeah, and especially with this guy, because he's been around in all kinds of like behind the scenes of this, that, and the other. It's like, it's probably more often than not. Actually, if you're listening to this now, you've definitely heard him play, whether you knew it or not, like on Spice Girls or something like that. So
if you watch Spice Girls or you watch Lost, like there's something that you've heard this guy on, and that's my case.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying for me personally.
Did you watch the entire Lost seasons?
Yeah.
All of it? From beginning to end?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Well, you've definitely heard it then.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know. I watched that like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't make it past season 2. I think I actually moved to America whilst those seasons were happening, so I lost track of it. But
fair enough.
But anyway, I hear it had possibly a more gratifying ending than Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but I think it kind of suffers from the same thing. Not as bad as Game of Thrones, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the whole show was kind of always mysterious and weird. So it could have ended up any way.
The others.
That's
all I remember.
Yeah.
The others.
It got weird. I mean, I think in episode 1 there was a polar bear on the jungle
island.
There
was the weird black smoke or something. Was that a thing?
Yeah, there was a smoke monster.
Okay, yeah.
There was a lot of weird stuff. Cool show.
Yeah.
I recommend it. It was very interesting.
Did you watch all of Game of Thrones or not?
I also did.
You know what? This is terrible. I've only ever watched the very first episode of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And the very last episode.
Oh. Why would you do that?
The very first one, I was with someone and was like, yeah, let's watch this. Let's get into it. And we were like, well, that's long. We're like, this is like watching a movie. Like, I don't have time for this. And then I was with someone else who was so excited about the season finale. And I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead and watch it. I don't care. I haven't seen it anyway. So I've watched the very first one.
Quite a dynamic thing.
I skipped the entire rest of the whatever.
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
No, probably not.
For any
don't do that.
Listeners who are wondering what you should do.
It's not like about albums on him where we're like, yeah, go back to the very first album and then no, don't do that.
That is something you can do with Shawn Lee. Start anywhere you want.
Anywhere, yeah.
You'll probably get something cool. If it's not your vibe, go to the next thing, and you'll probably find something that you'd enjoy.
Yeah, that's the cool thing with Shawn Lee. I feel like you can dive into any point in his discography and then go backwards and forwards. The only thing I feel like that some people might find a bit jarring is some of his albums where it's just like drums or percussion kind of thing. Because I know a lot of people aren't into just like listening to, you know, stuff that doesn't have like melody and vocals in it and stuff like that.
Funny enough, that's where I started. We started on the episode.
And you were like,
let's check out this cool album, 8 Breaks. I bet it's good because Jay knows good music and, you know.
Yeah. I mean, which is good if you're into music and you like breaks and just like listening to breaks. But yeah, those are probably like the most obscure things of his. But yeah, other than that, like his full albums with instrumentation and vocals, and then his collaborations that we just talked about, I think is like a really good sort of way to sort of get into what he's doing. And he's just very consistent along the whole way. He's not drastically different really in any of this music, I don't feel like.
Yeah, he's not going too far out of left field. He's not recreating genres. Yeah. Really. And I'm not trying to talk down in this way, but he's just doing what he knows how to do very well consistently. Yeah. And yeah, I don't mean to sound that in a negative connotation in any way, because he's obviously very successful and he does what a lot of artists would love to be able to do with working with different artists, different, you know, mediums and areas on TV, on movies, on albums, records, different studios across the world. Yeah. And it's fantastic. Yeah. He's a great discography. Mm-hmm. He's a great story. He's a tried and true, you know, musician. Yeah. I'm just saying he's not recreating genres or.
Yeah, he's not like he experiments, I think, not with genres but with musical instruments.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, kind of we never got back to what
the studio and all that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I'm just, you know, we can throw this at the end of the episode. You know, his studio is just full of racks of keyboards, synths. Mm-hmm. He has just, I don't know, boxes or wherever he keeps it, just random percussion instruments. I don't know what they would be called even. They're just doohickeys, you could say. Yeah. And he's playing it with a string. Yeah. What do you call it? A bow? Yeah. A bow, but it's not a stringed instrument. He's just making noise with it.
Yeah. I mean,
different shakers, all kinds of stuff.
I would love to be in his studio because it just he seems like someone that's like every time he comes across an instrument that he doesn't have or own, he'll like get it.
He wants it,
you know, or just like all kinds of weird things, like from toy. I've seen one sort of video of him in his studio, and it has all these like weird toy instruments as well that are like made for kids. They're not like real instruments. Like he has all that stuff as well. Yeah, so he has the ability to like create all these sounds, and I think that is a playground. Like, because if you're in a studio, just I'm laying down some organ just because I just opened up the organ and I came up with a riff on it, and I was like, that would sound really good with a weird like springy sounding percussive thing. Mm-hmm. I got that over that.
I got it.
He can just like on command create instead of like downloading samples or searching the internet for sounds. Mm-hmm. Like he has it all within reach, right, to be able to create organically those crazy sounds and stuff like that. And yeah, for me, that's like, I don't know if I've said it before on this episode, maybe I have, or on this podcast in general, but I'm not someone that really likes making music on the computer. Like, I don't like looking at a computer screen and following like the timeline and cutting things and staying in bars and like, to me that's not making music. To me that's like graphic design or something cool.
Yeah,
it's like it's too visual, and I like to just listen and also just organically as well. Like, I just like to play things and make sounds and then mess with it afterwards, kind of thing.
That's the vibe I get from this guy based on these videos that I've seen. He's just using, quote unquote instruments that aren't instruments really. Yeah. Toys, random things. Yeah. Banging things from drumsticks on a table
Yeah.
to random tubes knocking on the side of his chair by his microphone.
Yeah.
He's in a playhouse,
Yeah.
you know, like
And
you said,
then-
he's in a fun house.
Yeah, and then on top of those instruments, he does have all, you know, the microphones
Yeah.
and vintage mics, and he has like racks of like compressors and gear, and like there's one video where he has like this reverb unit that literally has springs inside the rack thing, and he's literally just banging it on purpose, like the outside of the unit, and, like,
Right.
it's creating these weird sounds.
Yeah, I saw a video and he had some kind of box or something, and he's like,
Yeah.
hit record.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like literally shaking it to the beat that
Yeah,
he
yeah.
wants, like
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like get the instrument is already doing what it's doing on the inside
Yeah.
with the strings or tubes or whatever that you know, whatever he's doing, but he's still being physical with his instruments and whatever objects he's using.
So this brings up an interesting topic that we've talked about before then. You know how we talked in Krungbrin episode about how they limit themselves, or at least Mark Spear limited himself with his guitar setup?
Yeah, give yourself a little bit of limitations in
Yeah.
order to help yourself be more creative.
Yeah, and also with Adrian Young in not having computers in the studio and only
Right.
being organic kind of thing. So Shawn Lee is like completely opposite, where he's like, the world is the limit. Any instrument you want, anything you want, like... So we've got two ends of the spectrum here, because I feel like there is value in both. Like, you know, limiting yourself to see how many combinations of sounds and riffs and things you can come up with on this limited set of equipment.
Right.
But then in Shawn Lee's case, just having like a whole toy store of like limitless possibilities kind of thing.
Yeah, and
It's like the other end of the spectrum. Like you can have an idea in your mind about a sound and then see what's in this room that you can grab to go create it, sort of thing.
yeah.
So they're both valuable approaches. I think there isn't. It's not one or the other, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Whatever you're more comfortable with, and that's the
Yeah.
beauty of what we're making this podcast about.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Sometimes limiting yourself can help yourself be more creative.
And then other times not. The
Other times
complete
not.
opposite.
You
It's
can
like-
do literally anything. Record that door shutting. Record
Yeah.
crumpling paper in the mic.
Yeah.
Literally anything is on the table, and nothing is wrong.
Yeah, nothing's wrong. You know, just yeah, it's just that's the interesting thing, and that's the thing. There's so many ways about going about this, right? About creating music, and I think, you know, individually, if you're out there and, you know, like us, like thinking about making music and stuff like that, is like, you know, what approach would you do? You know, like I'm like learning all of these techniques and approaches from all these artists we're talking about, and it's swirling around in my head, like about how I would go about creating like a track or a project sort of thing, and thinking about just everything I've heard from people that we've talked about on this show sort of thing has become part of my inspiration now, you know.
Totally. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's just very interesting. You can pick and choose what you want to do, and it can maybe help you through writer's block as well, probably. Like, you know,
If something's not working,
if it's not working,
try the complete opposite of what you're trying.
Yeah, try the complete opposite. That's a good thing for all writer's block, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not, try something completely the opposite and see if it's.
It doesn't have to. Well, this is the way that I write, though. It's the way I've always done it.
Yeah.
Like, just do something completely different, and that will ignite, new, synapses firing in your brain and create new pathways neurally, and you'll find new things.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. Discovery.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do. Discover new artists, discover new perspectives, philosophies, journeys, and ways.
Absolutely.
And all the things that you can do. Real quick, I wanted to shout out his engineer, who he seems to be pretty tight with, Pierre.
French guy.
Yeah, he's a French gentleman named Pierre. I can't think of his last name. Can you help me out? I don't know.
I can't, sorry.
Look him out, but I'm shouting him out because he's a dope guy, and he knows what he's talking about, and he's like right there with Shawn in the
Helping
studio.
him,
He's like his right-hand man.
There's a great video on YouTube of showing them together working, like creating a track in like a couple of hours or something like that.
Yeah. I watched that as well, and for that specific reason, I gotta shout out Pierre for his help with the collaboration of what Shawn Lee's coming up with. That's incredibly freeing, and not all of us have that access to help like that to a collaborator that's that close with you to help you deal with some of the technical stuff within your studio and with your computer and your instruments and plugging things in where they go and creating different sounds, while you get to create, concepts and ideas and, creating what you're thinking about in your imagination.
Yeah, super rare. Like a really great engineer in the studio to be able to not impede your thing. Like, not being like, I got this great idea. Oh no, sorry man, that's going to take me like 5 hours of rewiring things and I don't want to rewire things. Like, no.
Yeah.
Someone that's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Here we go.
You have this you have this energy. You're like, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to. Yeah. Well, oh wait, why isn't the keyboard playing on the sound? Why isn't it coming out of the speakers? Why can't I hear it? Oh, you got to think of. I got to plug it in. I got to do this. And then you lose the idea. You lose the vibe.
Yeah.
And this is something that Shawn Lee was talking about, and this is something that having an engineer like Pierre. I'm really sorry. I can't find his name. I didn't write that down or something for some dumb reason. If maybe Jay's gonna do a hero move right now and search it while I'm talking, because it's super valuable to have, and I wouldn't have forgiven myself if we talked about this guy Shawn Lee and how
Pierre Duplan.
Duplan, there it is. We got it.
Yeah.
Pierre Duplan, French engineer.
Yeah.
Works with Shawn Lee. It seems like their style. They work from like 10 to 2 p.m.
Yeah.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They take like an hour and a half lunch.
Yeah.
Then they come back and work till like 8 p.m. or 9.
And they're like,
and they're tight.
Studio is like right next door to like the I think it's the National Museum or something, in London.
Sure, I don't know.
I think it's the National. Like, yeah.
You been there?
I've been to the museum, yeah, and I was like, I think one of the reasons I went there as well was like to see if I could see Shawn Lee like walking around outside.
Nice.
Because I know his place is like right across the.
Well, you're saying on another episode that you saw David Albarn just walking around by you?
Yeah, man. Every time I go back to London, I see Damon Albarn.
Did I say David? Damon.
Oh, you know what? So I've seen him like 3 times. Like my last 2 run-ins with him was just walking past his local pub, and he's like out there like drinking. I really want to just go. Next time, I'm going to go get a pint and just going to sit outside and smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, hey, bro, I got you a pint. Fist bump, something walking by.
Yeah. But the very first time I saw him was in a music store in Tottenham Court Road in London, and this is before Gorillaz. And
wow,
I was in there, and it's like this music store that has like all this like, it was kind of like had all this like latest keyboards and samplers and technology and that. And I was just hanging out in there. And then Damon Albarn come through, and he was just like he was just like pointing at things like on the wall.
I want that one.
Yeah, exactly.
I want that one.
And I was like, there was this one awkward moment where I was trying to walk around these 2 guys that were in the way, and so was he. Damon Albarn was right there, and I was like, wait a minute, like he was like literally right next to me, and I was like. In my mind, I was like, I'm trying to get around these people. And then I was like, you're Damon Albarn.
There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, and then I just saw him like point at things. I think he was like buying shit to do the Gorillaz thing because it was before Gorillaz. So.
That's insane, man. What a cool story.
So this is the thing. Like next time I see him, I'll be like, dude, like you don't know me, but I've like,
I know you.
I've been around you like 3 times.
We've brushed shirts.
Yeah. And also he is an inspiration to me. I think he's really... I'm inspired by what he does. Yeah,
that guy's he's awesome.
All these different projects. Actually, he's someone we should just do a show on, regardless of Blur and Gorillaz. Like we should just do a Damon Albarn show.
Sure, that's a little more of an underground kind of vibe for Roots to Grooves. We're not trying to hit the Lady Gagas, the Beatles, the Ed Sheerans right off the top, guys.
Exactly.
We're trying to get that mid range people who we're trying to show people maybe somebody who you don't know, you haven't heard about.
Exactly.
Hopefully, so.
Because he's not that big in America, I think. Gorillaz are big. People know Gorillaz, I think, in America, but they don't know.
They don't know
who's behind it or whatever.
They don't know. Yeah. He's not as much of a household name.
Yeah.
As maybe in the UK, he's maybe a little bit more. I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah.
You would know more than me, but
yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got on Shawn Lee. Awesome dude.
Yeah.
Check it out. Tons of stuff. His Ping Pong Orchestra, AM and Shawn Lee. Mm-hmm. Shawn Lee. Himself on Spotify. Look it up.
Yeah.
You got anything else to throw in this, man? I'm done. I got it.
I mean, I can continue talking about this guy all day, to be honest with you.
There's a lot to talk about, for sure.
I'm trying to find right now, like, a good track to end on. But I don't know. There's just so many things.
We'll pull up one for us real quick. I mean, this guy's got albums on albums on albums. We haven't talked about half of the stuff he's created.
Yeah.
It's literally like I'm scrolling right now. Just scroll.
Yeah.
Heck of singles. He's worked with, Lana Del Rey, these huge names.
Yeah.
I don't know. You got a track pulled up yet? I'm just killing time right here.
Well, I have no idea what this is going to sound like, but I'm just going to play it.
We're gonna.
It's from 2008. It's his collaboration with Clutchy Hopkins.
Cool.
Who may or may not be Shawn Lee himself, or maybe no one knows who Clutchy Hopkins is. No one knows. Could be Mad Lib. No one knows. And I don't know what this is going to sound like, but I'm just going to play the first track off the album called Full Moon.
Word. If you guys know, let us know.
If you know who Clutchy Hopkins is.
Yeah. Any of our listeners I'm speaking to, if you got any corrections about Shawn Lee or any cool stories, hit us up. Give us that email, Jay.
roots2grooves@signalradio.com. That's SIGNL radio.com.
That's what I'm looking for.
Email us. Yeah. Is that it?
That's it. Jesse Quigley.
Jay Purcell.
This is Roots to Grooves.
We shall see you next week.
Peace.
Oh yeah, we go ahead and jam a little bit. Funky. Something like that. he know what he's doing. He catch it.
Roots to Grooves is a production of Signal Radio. For more music and independent culture, visit signalradio.com. That's signl radio.com.